everyone, welcome to the big story here on BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we discuss key issues shaping our nation and our economy at large. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and today we'll be focusing on the ongoing bill presentation by the federal representatives to set a 60-year age limit for governorship and presidential positions in Nigeria. We'll be exploring the implications and what this means for Nigeria's political system if fully signed to law. The Nigerian House of Representatives on Thursday, March 27, proposed a bill for a law to bar persons above the age of 60 years from contesting for the offices of president and governorship in Nigeria. The bill, which scaled the second reading in the House of Representatives, if passed and signed into law, will disallow notable politicians like the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, former Vice President Atiku, Abubakar, and the former governor of Anambra State and presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general election, Mr. Peter Obi, from contesting for elections in 2027. As should be expected, the proposal has started generating debate, with some arguing for and others speaking up against it. The big question here is, how far can Nigeria, the largest democracy in Africa, go with this proposal in changing its political dynamics? To help us break this down, we are joined by Barrister Solomon Okedara. Barrister Solomon is a solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria and researcher with over 10 years of post-call experience and outstanding expertise in human rights, with a special bias for freedom of expression and digital rights and intellectual property. And he'll be joining us as a public affairs analyst to dissect this conversation. Good morning and welcome to you, Barrister Okedara.
Good morning, Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Let me start by asking you, when you heard this proposal to limit the age for those seeking elections as president and governors yesterday, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, I think I've actually felt such a bill will be another distraction from the core issues of policy. And why that? Now, just a couple of years ago, we had the Not Too Young bill passed, which was a constitutional amendment bill. Mm-hmm. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that, to what extent has that bill contributed to the growth of our democracy? So, for example, we can look at it. How many young politicians have been able to find a way into politics, have been able to actually make some inroad into political sphere of a policy? How many? By the reason of that bill. So when you ask that question, you will realize that the bill itself is not an automatic ticket to political leadership. And that's actually my concern. And we are talking about, you see, what an average Nigerian wants is good governance. An average Nigerian on the streets of Lagos, Aba or Onitsha, does not care much the age of their leaders or the educational attainment of their leaders. What they want is good governance. Would this thing, these conditions, automatically translate to good governance? I can tell you the answer is no. And that's why I think it's actually more of a distraction than what is capable of transforming our political landscape.
All right. You think it's more of a distraction than something capable of, transforming our political landscape? And quite interestingly, earlier today, I had been speaking with another public analyst on this conversation, because we did skim through it on our front paper review, and he did share the same sentiment. But Nigerians have been complaining about old politicians, some of whom they have known since the 1980s and 1990s, still remaining in the corridors of power. Could this proposal have come to force such politicians to yield the floor to the youth? Because, like they say, the youth is the future.
So the question we need to ask ourselves is, where are those youths? Now, I beg your pardon, the immediate past governor of Kogi State is a youth. The gentleman became a governor, I think, at the age of 40. Now, of what economic progress have actually been brought to Kogi State by the reason of his age? Now, I think we need to actually detach, quality leadership from sentiment. when you go around the world today, now you will see political leaders who are older than 60 and are still making positive impact in their nations. However you look at it, let's take India, which is the largest democracy, in the world. For an example, their Prime Minister Modi is over 60, and Modi is making his great contributions to that country. I mean, the gentleman who just returned to United States as president for the second time, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is 78, for God's sake. So for me, I do not think focus should be on age. Yes, well, of course, no nation will actually want to trust a man who is 80 to become its president. But the question is that those who are young, those who are 60, those who are 50, where have they brought us as a people? That actually gives me serious concern. I think instead of focusing on that, can we begin to beam the searchlight on their previous life? Can we begin to extract their contribution, their practical contribution to nation building, whether while they were in school or while they were training, whatever they were doing in their previous life before they actually decide to join politics? What contribution have they made to the nation? Before Donald Trump became president of the United States, he never served a public office, but this man was an active business leadership. He was actually employing people, one of the largest employers in America. So we need to have some serious conversations and not necessarily putting an age limit that will actually take some people off, and some other persons we have to deal with them, whether they are actually qualified by experience or not. I think our conversation should shift towards quality leadership and not necessarily age as a factor to screen out some people or to make some people qualified in listening.
All right, Barrister Okedara, let's talk about the possibilities of if this bill were to pass through the two chambers of the National Assembly and eventually signed into law by the president. What it means is it would bar the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the notable presidential hopefuls from contesting in 2027. The question is, can the president, who is already making moves ahead of 2027, bar himself? Do you think that this proposal could therefore be a waste of time?
Honestly, just as you said, picking the word from you, I think it's just a sheer waste of time and taxpayers' resources. Trust me, that bill cannot be passed. Who are the one that will pass the bill? Now, can we check the average age of senator at the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Can we check the average age of members of the representative? Even check the age of some of our senior special assistants. Some of them are in their 60s already. And also, if I'm a 60-year-old, 62-year-old, and now my principal is about 75, and someday my principal is grooming me to take over from him. Now, aside the fact that someone like the incumbent president, who is well over 70, now one way or the other, he has some persons in mind that will take over from him. And I can tell you categorically, most of such hopeful presidents are actually over 60 already. If you begin to pick people in a policy who may actually contest for 2027, the only person that is not up to 60 is Omoyele Sowore. And the question is, if you have only Sowore to contest, I mean, that can't be politics. I mean, we should have quality competition, and that's the reality.
Quality competition. Speaking of quality competition, are you satisfied with the kind of laws that the 10th National Assembly has been making since their inauguration for up to 2 years now?
Well, I think the question is that sometimes we are not able to carry along as a people, about their lawmaking process. And I'm going to give you a critical example. So, one of my areas of specialty as a legal practitioner, digital rights generally, when you're talking about privacy, online inspection, and all of that. And I can tell you that some very critical laws were passed without public hearing. I'm going to give you an example. Now, they recently passed Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023. That is a fantastic law. That is a consequential law in our economy. that law was passed without public hearing. Now, the Cybercrime Act 2015, now, that law also was passed without public. And I can tell you, it is actually not a coincidence that that law contains some provisions that are repressive to freedom of expression. Some of those provisions, we fought them up to the Supreme Court. Some of them, we had to go to ECOWAS Court to get judgment and all of that. Even the amendment made and assented to by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2024 February, that amendment in itself is a problem. I mean, I'm talking about Section 24 of that Cybercrime Act right now. So why am I saying this? Now, some of these laws, most of them were actually passed without the public being involved. For God's sake, these people are our representatives. How many times do they get the public involved? I am not saying every citizen, but we have trade union groups. We have you have pressure groups. We have lots of civil society, organizations and entities that actually should be involved in public hearing. But oftentimes, law get passed, and the only thing you hear is that a law has been assented to by the president. The implications of those laws, we don't know. So trust me, I think the instead of extraying the laws that have been passed, we even need to know how much of public involvement or participation are done when it comes to lawmaking in a nation as of today.
And there have been calls by some groups of the Nigerian population to return the country to parliamentary system of government, which they believe is less expensive to run. The reps are now pushing for this. What's your take on this?
Well, trust me, whether we run a parliamentary system of government or a presidential system of government, bad leaders will remain bad leaders. Listen, the same people that will be involved in parliamentary system of government are those we have in the presidential system of government. And I think some of the things we need to do as a people, as I'm talking about ordinary men, we really need to actually take our leaders to account to us. Whether we are running a parliamentary system of government or presidential system of government, or federal system of government, I can tell you that the reality is that as long as we leave them to do their business, they will do their business. And that's it.
Right. And Barrister, are you there? I think we lost him for a bit, probably.
I mean?
Right, we can hear you. Barrister Okedara, we can hear you. We lost you for a bit, but we can hear you.
Oh, great. So my point is that, so I think December 2023, the Senate president was actually, I think one of the sessions, it was actually addressing the senators at the chamber, at the red chamber. And in this, said to them, he said, check your accounts, money have been sent, and all of that. And I think one of the leaders of the red chambers actually knew the implication of that statement, because it got to the media. And he walked out to the Senate president. He said something. And the Senate president was going to amend that statement. And he said, okay, sorry, senators, distinguished senators, prayers have been sent to your bank account. I mean, that was a dry joke to Nigerians. So yes, we know that, yes, you go out there, you share money, but please do not rub this on our faces. And that's my point. So if all we do as citizens is to sit back without actually engaging them practically, we really may not have the nation we deserve, whether we run a parliamentary system of government or a federal system of government.
Yeah, so we've spoken about parliamentary, federal system. There are also some Nigerians who think that we should run perhaps a unicameral system rather than having both chambers of the Senate and reps. Do you see any merit to this argument?
Well, I think I do. I think I do. You see, we are a poor nation, and there's no point trying to be euphemistic about that. And when I say we're a poor nation, particularly in comparison with our population, we have a population of over 230 million. That's huge. So, but then, you see, do I see us, going to unilateral, I'm sorry, unicameral system of government. I am not sure that will happen. So now, but then, why that whether that happens or not, my call is actually for quality representation, quality leadership. But you see, quality leadership and representation cannot happen until the people call their leaders to order, until the people challenge the people who are representing them. Until you see, all of the representatives and senators, they have constituency offices. But the challenge with all citizens is that what do we go to those offices to do? We go there to meet their staff, to actually submit envelopes for our churches, for events in a mosque. Now, how can I challenge the representation of somebody who fund my church, who fund my mosque? And that's a problem. We actually contribute to the incompetence, ineptitude of these political leaders. And that's the problem I have. So, your system of legislation, I am for it. But then, will it in itself solve the problem of corruption? Will it in itself solve the problem of incompetence? I will tell you, no.
Right, Barrister Okedara, before I let you go, now that you've made your submissions on this proposed 6 years limit and just what you think about it, and some of the some of the laws that have been passed, if you were to advise the reps on the more necessary laws that they should be considering at this time, what would you be asking for?
Yes. What looking at it from the situation as our nation is today, my position will first be, please, can you let the judiciary be independent? For God's sake, you see, judiciary is not just the hope of the common man, it's actually the pivot on which the democracy stands. Now, so it's so saddening, particularly maybe because I belong to that constituency. We have a nation where an average politician brags about judiciary. That go there. Now the judgment will be in my favor. I will know who the CJs, will know who the judges. So, for God's sake, I want to say nation where the judiciary is supported, where the judiciary does not have to depend on the executive for his funding. You see, the word independence must not just only be a paper issue, must be the reality of our systems. I can tell you today, if the politicians know that when there's a judgment of the court, when there's a ruling of the court, there is no.
Well, it looks like we have a slight connection issue there with Barrister Solomon Okedara, but he was just sharing his thoughts on some of the laws he would rather.
Asserting his role in our democracy.
Barrister Okedara, are you there? Barrister Solomon Okedara, are you there? All right, that's how we bring it to wraps here on the big story. We've been speaking on the proposed 60-year age limit for president and governorship candidate, and we've been speaking with Barrister Solomon Okedara. Thank you very much for your time with us this morning. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching.